Good morning and welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. I am Mark Schaffner.
And I'm Richard Beach.
Got a lot of fun things for you here today. I think let's start by just introducing the background image just a little bit.
So this car right here is not your ordinary vehicle.
No, it's not.
That mesh that you see on the top is actual mesh. It goes straight through to the bottom.
That's right. If you get yourself stuck in traffic and wish that you could ever just kind of like take off and fly over the traffic, well, this is the car for you.
That's right. It has 4 props. We'll get into it, but it's got 4 props. In this picture, you can see it. Well, you can't see the props, but you can see where they're at.
Yes,
pretty neat car.
We will be talking about the Alef Model A, which is this car, in just a little bit. It's one of the first, but not the only flying car.
That's right. You know, it wasn't too long ago that people were saying, you know, the Jetsons thought we would have flying cars in 2000. What's going on now? And we're living through the genesis of this as well. It's pretty neat.
Yeah, not quite back to the future timeline stuff, but a little closer than you would have thought. So
yeah.
So, yes. Ryan Flint says, this looks like a good one. Juicy subjects. Thanks for joining us, Ryan.
And we're just starting out, and we've got George here.
That's right.
Good morning, George. Jinx.
Got a lot of good stuff today, a lot of news. I'm going to start out, though, with a quick thank you and shout out to the people over at Gruber Communication Products. They've given me this shirt and want to make sure that we recognize the ones that got us here.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. It's a pretty slick looking shirt, and I like it.
The Gruber Communication Products team started back in 1984.
Wow.
And that's when Pete had people working in his house until the neighbors complained, and the city said, you can't run a business out of your house with 22 people.
Little did they know it would spawn a podcast one day.
That's right. That's right. So one of the first things we wanted to talk about was something that we actually talked about yesterday. One of our social media guys and part-time employee, Aaron McKenzie, took a most interesting TikTok video.
Yep, he sure did.
So,
and thankfully, we're not the only ones that thought it was interesting. If you recall, the gentleman who was laying down in the parking space.
Yes.
That's the one we're referring to.
About 2.6 million other people have thought that's interesting enough to watch.
I mean, that's just counting TikTok. That's not counting all the clicks that we got from the news sites and the articles released on it.
Yeah. So when Jesse has time, we'll have him pull up that video. Here we go. We've got a guy here. He's saving his spot.
Yeah.
Just craziness.
So the story behind this is that Model 3 behind him is his, and it died right before he got to the parking space, but he didn't want anybody else to take his spot, so he went ahead and laid down until he could figure out a way to get it into the spot. I assume what he's doing is looking on his phone for tow trucks or something of the matter.
I kind of want to give him the benefit of the doubt and say that the gym was full and he was working on his abs.
Well, that's...
it's possible.
It's possibility.
Questionable location for that. I mean, Arizona heat on the hot pavement.
I mean, it's... I don't care that it's shaded right there. I would think you belong on there and you just cook.
Yeah.
You know, it's the middle of summer here in Arizona. This was in Central Phoenix, near what is the Biltmore area for us. And gentleman's Model 3 died as he was trying to pull into his parking spot to charge. Yeah, and for the benefit of our Instagram viewers, if you go to Gruber Motor Company, look at TikTok, you're going to see a guy laying across the backside of a parking space. And what it is that his Model 3 did not, it died just before he pulled in. He was there. He wanted to get his charge. And so this got picked up by Axel Addict. And I happened to see it on my MSN feed this morning as I was starting to look through news articles. So I thought that was interesting. We put all of this video content out.
Yeah.
All of these useful, helpful tips, all of these, sometimes funny, sometimes cool, sometimes weird things. And it's some dude laying down in a parking lot that gets us millions of views.
Is it tow mode?
I do believe there's a mode that you can put it into. There is a tow mode on your Tesla that you can put it into. The question at hand, and you could even, if you can get the car to turn on, you can even set the drive rail to neutral and be able to push the car while it's still in neutral. So there's a couple ways that can happen. Axel Addict had a few tips, and I thought that would be kind of neat to go through these. Here's some things you can do if you run out of charge. First, stay calm. If you're near a charging station, it might be possible, put your car in neutral, or if you have a tow mode, put it in tow mode and get a couple friends and push your car into the charging station.
Just like you would with a gas station in a nice car.
Exactly.
Throw her in neutral, start pushing her.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
This is not the little car that weighs, 2,500 pounds, which is hard enough for one person to push and drive. This is even the light EVs, and light is kind of a relative term. Even the light EVs are going to be 3,500 to 4,500 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, don't want to pull a hammy.
No,
you don't want to add a hospital or an ambulance trip.
Yeah.
In with needing to get your car to a charger.
Well, and if you have AAA or some other type of roadside assistance, either through your insurance company or like a AAA membership, give them a call.
Yeah.
More and more, because there are getting to be so many EVs out on the streets, these companies have portable chargers. In fact, if you remember I think it's a couple months ago, we had I don't remember if it was Spark Charge, but we had a portable charging solution that could fit into the back of a van.
Oh yeah. No, I remember that.
You remember that one? And that is becoming more and more common. Even consumer level charging stations or portable chargers, basically the size of maybe 2 or 3 batteries, car batteries that you can slip it down into the back of your trunk, possibly in that well underneath your trunk. They're becoming more popular for people. Almost like it's just basically an emergency charger.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I mean, in an ICE car, I would do that with a gas can if I didn't think I'd pass out from the fumes.
Yeah. If your charge is starting to get low, and I had this happen to me one time too. I was coming back from Mesa. This is back when I had my Kia Soul 2015. Leave Mesa to go to where I lived in Peoria. For us, it's across town. And lest you get an idea of across town being 3 or 4 miles, Phoenix is notorious for being spread out. For us, Mesa to home was 52 miles, city all the way. We get on the freeway, we're doing our thing, and I start up at 60 miles. I'm thinking, yeah, okay, I'll be low. I'll be 10 miles or 8 miles. By the time I get around the curve in North Scottsdale on the 101 freeway to head home, I'm still 32 miles away from home. My car reads 25 miles. And I'm thinking, okay, there's some things that you can do that will really greatly extend the range of your car just through your driving style. First thing we did, we turned off the air conditioning. For us, it was evening. It was warm, but wasn't summertime warm like here, but it was warm. Just turn it off. Driving at or below the speed limit. Very important. Not safe, but effective. Find a pickup truck or a van or a semi-tractor trailer and tailgate them.
You know, funny enough, that's what I used to do with my F-150 when I was on the freeway. Thing guzzled gas, and
Yeah.
I was, you know, not wanting to spend with gas at $4 or $5 or whatever it was back then. I wasn't wanting to waste any, so I'd just find a semi, get right up behind it, go its speed, you know, and it worked. You know, the whole tactic of Formula One drivers where they get right behind each other and then launch off the side, that's real. That works. The vehicle in front of you is punching a hole in the air, which makes it easier for you to get through.
Oh yeah, you know, even that that TV show in the aughts and the 2010s, Mythbusters. I love them. I still watch it regularly when I can find it. They did that. They even tested that, and they said if you're driving, you know, if you're only 3 feet behind the car in front of you, or you're the semi in front of you, you can gain almost 50% on your gas mileage.
Wow, 3 feet's a little close.
3 feet's definitely close.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust
but even a car length was about 25% gas savings.
Wow.
So that's something that we would do. And then on an EV specific thing, accelerate as you're going down the hills very slightly. Keep up with the car in front of you if you're going up hills, and don't be afraid to use that regen. For the Kia, it was the constant speed of being on cruise control in the freeway that was eating miles. By taking it off of cruise control and speed up a little bit, get behind somebody, you start to hit even a slight decline, like an underpass. Let off a little bit, let the car just kind of coast or slightly regen. You come back up the hill. You can there are a lot of techniques like that on electric cars you can do that will extend.
My understanding is 55 is the prime speed for Teslas, at least.
Yeah, and that's not just for Teslas. There's a lot of cars that if you get them to that 55, our little Volvo XC40. It's if I'm going 40, anywhere between 40 and 55 is kind of the ideal. And I would say for the Volvo, it's a little bit slower than 55, more like 50 miles an hour. But yeah, that range is probably going to get you longer range on your EV. That range of speed than any other. So those are some things that you can do. One other thing that I will not necessarily recommend, and most of your EV manufacturers do not recommend, get somebody to tow you while you're in drive. It will trigger the regen.
That's
totally not safe.
No,
but it works. It's supposed to work really, really well.
That's hysterical.
You know, so that's a last resort type of thing, but yeah, it can happen.
I feel like it's a really, really inefficient way of turning gasoline into electricity.
Oh, well, probably, but it works. Yes. The Pete sighting.
We can.
Yeah, I guess we can. We can. It's George had a little bit of fun with this one, and I think he definitely Pete lying down on the parking lot there.
I laughed when I saw it. Yeah. Yep.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good there.
You know, if Pete was going to be sunbathing somewhere, you know, a Tesla Supercharger is, I feel like, just as on par as a beach in France.
I think so. And, you know, the thing is, and George probably realizes, that will rotisserie you. You will end up with burns on the parking lot.
Yeah. Yep.
So, a couple of questions, couple of comments coming in. Herbert Buter is back today. He was here with us yesterday. Good morning. He says, "Oh, interesting."
Then Thomas Halgren says, "My gardener wants one of those leaf blower cars."
Hey, that would be a great
leaf blower cars. One of the.
Well, think of it. ALEF. Maybe we can call it a
leaf blower. Huh.
First pun of the day.
Hey, I like it.
Ryan Flint says, I saw a woman being towed into a supercharger for the first time a couple weeks ago. You got to do what you got to do.
Yep, it's an adjustment. I mean, it's, we're going from one type of propulsion to another, and there are so many different characteristics between the two. It's going to take time for people to get used to, which is totally okay.
Yeah, it will. It will. And, and in a gasoline powered car, my rule of thumb was when I get to or below a quarter of a tank, I'm probably going to go start looking for a gas station.
Yeah.
There is the anecdotal evidence in at least in a pickup truck. Once you get below a quarter of a tank or so, your gas, your fuel pump that pulls the gasoline out of the tank and throws it into the engine can get overheated and can eventually fail if you let your tank get below a quarter of a tank. Well, same thing in an EV. If you get below about 20% charge, you probably need to be looking for a charging station.
Yeah. Now, I wasn't asking.
That would be, I think you'd end up with a lot of really annoyed people.
Probably. How dare you tell me to do something that I should be doing anyway?
But I have to admit, Jesse, I think that would probably work. I had a Tesla Model S. It was a loaner from Gruber Motors while my car was getting fixed a while back, and it claimed to have 160 miles of range, but we knew that the battery wasn't. There's something weird going on with the car. Drove again to Mesa, seeing family, coming home. Started out with a full charge. I even range charged the Model S to 155 miles, is what it said it had. At 103 miles, the car stopped. It said low miles, and it went from 19 miles to 0 miles in about 3/4 of a mile. It had a projected 19 to 0 range.
Huh.
And it went from 0 range to shutting down in another 1/4 of a mile. And we were about a half a mile from home.
Oh, no.
Let's just say I had a very unhappy wife that evening.
Yep.
And I got one of the texts from Gruber Motors to come over. He came over a couple hours later. After we got home, we called him and told him what was going on. He got into the car, got into the software with the laptop hooked up, and within about 5 minutes, it had 19 miles of range again.
Wow.
So then we drove it home, put it on the charger. It was good to go for the next day. Yeah. Considering how ticked off my wife got with that, Jesse, I'm not sure if your IT would be that good or not.
Yeah, probably not.
So Ryan adds another comment for us today. He says, good point. Ask for a little help. Most of us are sitting in our Teslas while charging anyway.
I wanted to make a comment on that point as well. I feel like the biggest fear that people have, or the biggest thing preventing people from asking for help is the fear of judgment, right? They don't want to ask for help because it's like it says I'm not capable or incompetent or whatever. But none of us would actually think that when somebody asks for help, right?
Yeah.
So if I'm on the road and I see somebody asking for help, I'm gonna do it. And thinking I've been there. I mean, just the other day, there was this guy who was driving up a hill with his hazards on, and there was somebody behind him and then me behind that person, and they moved over to the side as they were moving for us to be able to pass. And what popped into my mind was, bro, I get it.
Yeah,
that's it. That sucks, man. Thank you for moving over. That's how most people are.
Yeah.
So ask for help. People want to help.
A lot of times people want to help. Most definitely. Well, let's talk about this flying car a little bit more.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Real quick. I did want to show a new product that we're going to go ahead and release. Maybe.
Okay.
For this exact situation where you're trying to get your car to a charger.
Oh, yes,
now,
please.
Instead of this man lying down and baking his back, I figured we'd make a cone. And
Okay.
I went ahead and, George, I did my own little Photoshop job on this one. Crude product, just in development, testing phases. So, yep, there we go. Be right back. Got to push my car.
That's going to work better, especially here in the Phoenix heat. The main question I have is that cone's going to melt to the pavement after about 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. It'll be your permanent charging spot after that.
That's right. That's right.
But a flying car.
Yes, let's talk about the flying car just a little bit more. Here we've got the company is Alef Aeronautics, ALEF. So we could call them Alef if you want to be a leaf blower. That's they've announced. Not only do they have this flying car, they announced this week that they have 2,500 pre-orders for this car.
That's hysterical.
This is like I was talking on Tuesday. Tesla has $200 million in cash from pre-orders for the Cybertruck. These guys have 2,500 pre-orders. Once they have paid out the pre-orders, that's $750 million of potential revenue that they have.
That's ridiculous. So what you're saying is we just need to go over to Chaz's shop, weld this box together, put some wheels on it, make it look like it's got a windshield, and say this is the e-box. Reservations start at $100. They're going to sell for $60,000, and we might, get $750 million.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Especially if we can find something that goes viral.
There we go. Exactly.
This particular flying car, here's some of the specs on it. It's going to have 200 miles of driving range. Going to have a flying range of about 110 miles. It already has received its special airworthiness certification from the Federal Aeronautics Administration, from the FAA.
Okay.
So it's legally allowed to get up in the air and fly. They are slated to begin production on this car in late 2025. Deliveries are expected to customers starting in 2026.
This is just mind-blowing. Honestly, I don't know how to react to this because there's so many questions that are going on in my mind, right? Is this individual going to need a typical pilot's license, right? If the FAA is already involved, that means that they're going to, have probably a whole new book of regulations that come out for these things. How simple is this going to be to fly, right? There are so many questions. I mean, I'm decently mechanically savvy as far as operating machinery, cars, motorcycles, whatever, right? I've taken a few pilot's lessons. And I was sharing this with you earlier. A lot of the flight stuff is counterintuitive to me at the very least. For example, if I wanted to increase my airspeed, I thought, like in a car, you increase the throttle, right?
Sure.
Start going faster. That's not the case. You tilt your nose down to start going faster, right? And if you want to increase in elevation, right, I thought you tilt your nose up to go up, right? No, you increase the throttle. Counterintuitive. And I'm curious if these things are going to operate in the same counterintuitive principles, or if there's some sort of more seamless integration from driving to flying.
It's going to be really interesting. I know there's a class of called ultralights.
Mm-hmm.
They're flying. They're small flying planes, almost like a glider with a lawnmower engine on it.
Mm-hmm.
And they do not fall under the purview of the FAA, or the FAA has said these don't have to fall under our purview. So hobbyists will go out and they can take off from whatever strip of land or road or whatever they see. I don't think this is going to be like that, though. If you can get up and fly for 100 miles in this car, this car is going to cost about $300,000 as well. So it's no joke as far as the cost goes.
My understanding on that ultralight comparison to this is something like a paramotor, right? Where it's literally a parachute and a giant fan on the back, right? If I go full force on one of those things into a building or into a car or something like that, I might get killed, right? I might get hurt, but the damage to others is extremely limited. Whereas, a Boeing 747 hitting the ground, that's completely different story, catastrophic. Right. This, while not up at Boeing 747's level, is probably akin to a Cessna crashing, right? the damage that it can cause to the occupants and those around it is greater, right? So it's most likely going to have those higher regulations.
I'm thinking it probably will. And honestly, Richard, when I look at the level of intelligence of some of the people that are driving around me, to add a third dimension, it's bad enough that they're going forward, backward, or side to side. To add the ability to go up and down to that level of intelligence absolutely scares the bejesus out of me.
Yeah.
It's not going to be good. Hopefully, in the next 2 years before these things come out, hopefully they'll figure out some sort of Aeronautics version of full self-driving.
Yeah.
You go.
I had that exact thought, Jesse, when Mark and I were going over this article. Autopilot came from the aviation community, right?
Yeah.
At least the phrase, and it's, one would argue that the father of FSD is aviation autopilot, right?
Yep.
I hope it'd be, I would be okay with full autonomy and flight with this thing. I think that would be a good way around it, because what happens when you get two young adrenaline junkie guys that want to race these things, right? One just got the new Corvette version and one has a Ferrari version and they want to go.
Yeah.
Right? And then they knock into each other in the sky and they land on a house, right? Family of 5 is in there. Now what?
Yeah, now what? It's or if this is going to be subject to FAA rules, one of the commenters on the article that I saw said, well, okay, anything more than $25,000 in damage is going to have to be subjected to an NTSB investigation.
Mm-hmm.
If you're driving, if you're taxiing your Cessna and you hit somebody's car, the car might sustain a couple thousand in damage, and your Cessna is expensive enough that it might sustain enough in damage to hit that 25,000 level. Boom, NTSB investigation.
Mm-hmm.
Is the NTSB really ready to investigate all of the car accidents that might occur on a Monday morning for rush hour?
That's a good question. That is a very good question.
A lot of stuff that needs to be asked.
I can definitely see the existing infrastructure that we have for classification, regulation, and maintenance, government-wise, on this subject. It's not sufficient because you're going to be piecing together, well, this department's going to do this piece of this department's going to do this, and this. As much as I don't advocate for creating a new entity or creating a new section of government or anything like that, there would need to be for this.
Something's going to have to change
Yeah.
in government level. So it's not a fun thing to have to think about for them. I'm glad it's them that has to think about it, not us.
100%.
One or two more things about this particular aircraft. If you think you've got the chops to be able to fly it, $150 puts you into the queue. and if you want to get in the priority queue, $1,500 will get you into the priority queue.
See, that's a pretty big discrepancy. $300,000 car, extremely low level entry.
Yeah.
What do you think the motive behind that is?
Well, I personally, it's investment.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to you and say, I want you to give me $200 million, and you say, why? I say, well, here's a list of 2,500 customers, and they want to spend $750 million on my car.
Mm.
Then you say, oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe I will give you $250 million.
Interesting.
So that's one take.
That makes complete sense.
Now, the Alef is not the only company that has a flying car.
Nope.
There is a car in China that has been made by Xpeng, the Aero HT, and it has received a flight permit in China to fly. Also, Doroni Aerospace out on the East Coast is in the process of testing their flying car here in the States.
Mm.
So it will be a race to see who's out there first. By the way, as far as obviously this is an electric vehicle, did confirm it has in-wheel motors for when it drives. It's they call it a distributed power.
Okay.
So if you were to look at the car from the top down, it's like, okay, where's the battery? Where's the motor?
Yeah. Do we have a picture?
I did not save a picture of that, and I wish I
Okay.
had.
Well, let me see if I can throw one over there real quick.
Okay. So while you're doing that, I'm gonna pull up a couple more questions here. First, Lightning Rod. Good morning, Lightning Rod. He's here from Thunder Bay. Thanks for watching. George also really liked what you had to say just a little while ago. Telling you that was very funny.
Thank you.
And he also said the Alef can go with your Elon.
When we were talking about the Afila the other day, the name of this car reminds me of it, because you want to Afila the car, right?
Yes.
The Alef sounds like a lift.
Yeah.
Going up. I don't know if we're gonna get just yeah,
I don't know. And George on the Watch Rich Rebuilds channel, I do want to call that out sometimes. It does say it's really just a human-sized drone with wheels. Yeah, very possible. Ryan Flint says this could go Fifth Element world instead of the Jetsons. Oh, yeah.
That's
There
a
you go.
classic. Yep.
Classic movie. Niles has joined us from the Bion Danish Genome Institute. Niles, I was thinking of you this morning as we were getting ready for show and thinking, man, I haven't heard from him for a little bit. So I'm so glad you're here. Says, good morning. Flying cars sound like a perfectly mad idea. Why do we not make them U-boats too? Yes. I agree.
Make them U-boats too?
No, that they're a mad idea.
Oh. Well, it's only a matter of time before we get an all-terrain vehicle.
Yes.
Whether it's sea, land, or sky.
Yes. Just oh man. So let's moving on this one. So the very cool car that we have here. Tesla has leaked out or has put out a little bit more information about their version or Generation 4 SuperCharger. We have talked in the past about this SuperCharger, and the Gen 4 SuperCharger that we've learned so far that it's going to have a longer cable. There has been news articles recently that have talked about how it's going to have a place for a screen and a card reader. I think that's ostensibly so that people that are not part of the Tesla network can pay and charge. We've heard a lot of chatter about it being used, especially for Cybertrucks, but also possibly even for semis. There's also been chatter about it being about the megawatt charging for semis that would not be this. Well, the latest feature that we've heard just yesterday is that the V4 SuperCharger is going to have 350 kilowatt charging capabilities.
Wow. The current is 250, right?
The current is 250 on the SuperChargers. And the current maximum kilowatts on the CCS standard, at least here in the United States, is 350 kilowatts.
So it's on par.
It's on par.
Okay.
So we don't know the voltage and amperage mix that comes up to that 350 kilowatts. Like in CCS, you know that it's an 800 volt, and I think it's roughly a 450 to 500 amp connection. We don't know what Tesla's doing yet. They did not disclose that, but they did disclose that 350 kilowatts. I find that that's really notable for a couple reasons. First, obviously, there are no Tesla vehicles right now that can charge that fast. Nothing on the marketplace can do that. Okay, is the Cybertruck going to be the first one?
I think so.
That's kind of what I would think it might lead toward.
Or even the Model 3 refresh.
Yeah.
Or the what did they call the new product? The Model 2.
The Highlander project, I think, is what they're calling it, or something like that.
Highlander is the Model 3 refresh, but there's a phrase that Tesla's been using for
I don't remember right
unreleased
offhand.
product or something.
Yeah,
like
their unreleased product. Not only that, though, in the push to make the NACS standard the true standard for North America, some of the stiffest or most vigorous argument against the standard have come from automakers such as Lucid, such as the Hyundai/Kia group, And groups like that have already adopted the 800-volt charging standard that CCS has. And their argument in the past, which has been logical, was why would we put our cars on an inferior network if we can already have our people charging at 350 kilowatts?
Reasonable.
Reasonable argument that no longer holds water.
That no longer holds water.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes.
I'm very excited. I'm excited to see where this goes. I mean, the progression of, just since I've been working here, right? So a year and a half, give or take, right?
Yeah.
The progression has been insane.
Oh yeah.
Right. When I first started working here, we were hearing of, EVs here and there, right? No real big news on it. Now it's just everything's exploding. Charging stations, everything is everywhere now.
Yeah, it is. It has really blown up. No pun intended. The number of car models that are out now versus 3 years ago, it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
The number of car models that are coming out, which we covered on Tuesday a little bit, 51 new models of cars. Likewise.
Hey, Mark.
Excuse me.
Yes, Aaron.
Wasn't Lucid and Porsche's concern going back to the trying to pull it up here, the higher output of power? Wasn't that their concern about adapting the NACS?
That was one of their main concerns. Yeah.
So does this eliminate this then? So now Lucid doesn't have an argument not to join?
That's what I would think, because one of Lucid's main concerns was, hey, Tesla, why don't you get your charging stations up to the standards that we can charge to already, and then maybe we can talk. Well, this seems to be Tesla's response is they're getting their stations up to the highest level charging standards that Lucid can have.
Do we want to start opening a bet pool on Lucid, whether or not they'll join?
I would put the over-under still at close to 12 months.
Okay.
I think they'll eventually join.
Fair enough.
But we'll see what happens. Something else that we talked about. This just a couple weeks ago now. Remember, we were talking about Tesla works with Indian tribes to do an end around for states. There are a bunch of states here in the United States that still have the, I'm going to call archaic model of manufacturers not being allowed to work directly in a state with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
And the history of this, it makes some sense, honestly. If I'm a Ford dealership and down the street, Ford opens their own dealership, now my main supplier is also my competitor.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I can go find another supplier. I'm a Ford dealership. It's what I do. So there's an anti-competitive / anti-monopoly type of thing going on here. The laws in the past made a lot of sense in that context, but they don't anymore. You've got not only Tesla, you've got Lucid, you've got Fisker, you've got a number of car manufacturers that have decided to bypass dealerships altogether to attempt to sell to customers. And it's not like they're anti-competitive, but the dealerships have, depending on where you are in the country, are choosing to rely on these old archaic laws to fight the competition in a way that's frankly is unfair.
Yeah, that's not the intended use of these laws.
No,
that's not how this is supposed to be done. But when does that ever stop?
So New York was one of these places.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla did their end around on New York because if you know, in the United States, tribal land, tribes are considered sovereign nations.
Mm-hmm.
And so tribal land, commonly called reservations in the past, are considered sovereign territory inside the United States, but does not apply, at least at the state level, to state laws. That's how Tesla was able to work with the Oneida Indian tribe up in upstate New York and build out a sales and delivery center. I think it's going to be a full sales, delivery, and service center. They're doing it now in Connecticut.
Nice.
So Tesla is partnering with Mohegan tribe.
Okay.
And Connecticut is at the forefront of the states that have opposed Tesla and other types of manufacturers coming in. Part of that, I think, is that the Connecticut Automotive Retailers Association is arguably one of the strongest lobbies in the state of Connecticut when it comes to automobiles. It was written that they finance a lot of the legislators who go to the Connecticut Senate.
So what you're telling me is that money is the thing that's standing in between Tesla and being able to sell in Connecticut.
Yes, in Connecticut, that is definitely one of the things that I think is there. So Tesla has done the same end around. The Mohegan tribe is sovereign land. The laws of the state of Connecticut do not apply. This fall, Tesla will be opening a sales and distribution center. So customers can now take delivery of their Tesla vehicle that they've ordered from Tesla right there in state. And they do not have to drive further down the eastern seaboard just to get their car.
They may even be exempt sales tax on that land as well. I know that here we have several different reservations, and when you go to Chevron off of the 101 and Chaparral, there's not any sales tax on tobacco products there.
That's correct.
Because it's right on native land. Maybe there'll be another advantage there, not having to pay sales tax.
That's a great point that I had not thought about, and it is very possible. It could be that there'll be some sort of a tribal tax that the tribe gets, but the state won't be able to collect the state level sales tax. So that's another advantage. Not that I'm going to fly to Connecticut and go buy a Tesla, but the thing about this is that right now it's a sales and delivery center. Depending on the success of this center, there are tentative plans to turn it into a service center as well in the future.
Nice. That's exciting.
So great news for the people of Connecticut, and kind of another finger from Tesla to state governments. So Ryan Flint has another question for us. He says, I just drove from California to Florida and back in my 2015 Model S in May.
Nice.
Says, I was a little worried at first, but the Supercharger network was there and I made it no problem. We really need more solar shade. That's a great point you make, Ryan. There are a lot of Supercharger stations that are being built out with solar energy to help power the stations. That's a really cool thing. You're finding that there are, and it's not power walls, it's there, but Tesla's stationary battery application that is helping to store some of that energy. And the Supercharger network is getting to where it's very well built out, especially on major interstates.
Absolutely. And they're starting to produce what's called a cyber canopy as well. That's not something we've gone into yet, but something we'll bring to the next show. I believe they're producing the first one in Germany.
Ah, nice.
Not aware of what it is, how it's going to work, but I assume solar and shade are going to be a part of the deal.
Sure.
Well, did you guys talk about the number of chargers coming with that? That was a part of that V4 announcement? The 30,000 chargers and all that?
No, we did not talk about the number of chargers that would be coming.
Okay, I'll talk about that. Let's finish these questions up real quick, though.
Okay. George is back, says to Ryan, we could also use Wi-Fi at certain Superchargers where there's cell phone dead spots.
That'd be cool.
That'd be very cool. Ryan's response was definitely. The worst was a Holiday Inn in New Mexico that wouldn't let Tesla drivers use their Wi-Fi. Oh my gosh.
Weird.
Oh. Tribal land is best managed by the original landowners, Ryan continues. The sovereign tribe. I really agree with that. Really do. Randolph Schnack has joined us this morning. And
like
good morning, Randolph. I do too. The state will get the sales tax when you register the car, the same as if you buy the car out of state. That's an excellent point, Randolph. If if I buy a car from New Mexico and I have that car shipped here, if it's a new car, if it has not been titled yet, the state is going to ask for the bill of sale and then my local state is going to charge me sales tax on that car based on how much I paid on the bill of sale.
Interesting.
And that becomes part of the registration fee.
Isn't there some loophole with Montana, though? Where if you bring your car there, there's no registration fee and you can just title it there and then have it transferred to another state?
Well, there are 5 states that do not have sales tax. Texas and Montana. Wyoming is another one of those states. I don't remember all of them.
Florida and Alaska.
Okay, so those would be the 5. Now, if you took delivery of your car in one of those states and were able to register it in that state, ostensibly, you're registering in a state without sales tax, and then you're simply bringing it to Arizona, re-registering the car, retitling it, and you don't have sales tax because it's your car. You already had it titled.
For the record, we are not advocating that you, what's the word? Avoid taxes. Tax evasion. We're not recommending that you do that. If you happen to live in Florida and you've got plans to move to Arizona, might as well buy your car there and then move here. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, don't go to the local UPS package store and buy yourself a UPS PO box and say, I live in Wyoming. Not very cool.
No. Aaron's got something to say.
Actually, I was going to say I tried looking into getting a PO box in Montana and buying a diesel there. It's kind of complicated.
People do that with businesses all the time. A lot of people incorporate their businesses in Wyoming or somewhere else. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You just have to have a registered agent over there. So as long as you have some kind of presence there's a perfectly legal way to do it.
Yes. Well, Arizona stopped me. They kind of looked and said, no, we're not going to let you register the car here and have a PO box in Montana. That just doesn't work out.
Yeah. That's in business registrations. I mean, Delaware is known to be the most business-friendly state in the union. And so there are an inordinate number of businesses, especially larger businesses, that are registered in Delaware. And it has to deal not only with the cheap cost of registering the business, but with the business-friendly laws that are on the books in Delaware.
Interesting.
But that's not quite the same as an individual going and renting a PO box.
So you want to go over that charging thing?
Yes, we definitely do.
Let me see if my camera's working here. We're having some technical difficulties. Hey, there we go.
Hey.
So basically what happened, this was on, I saw it just briefly, Sandy Munro made a post about it yesterday on Twitter, or X as it is now. But I found the article here. It says a lot of these big auto manufacturers are betting on 50% of the U.S. car sales by 2030 will be EV. That's what they're thinking. And they're putting their money where their mouth is because, let's see, it says GM, Chrysler, and Hyundai, a couple of these big ones, they're going to be doing 30,000 chargers in the next couple of years using the Tesla standard. So they're all in at this point.
Okay.
Interesting. 30,000 individual chargers.
That's what it says.
Well, and that makes some a lot of sense. I had seen something in the news about 7 large car manufacturers are grouping together to put together new chargers as well. Now with the Tesla V4 standard, hopefully Tesla has said publicly, we'll share our patents with you. Hopefully these guys will be able to get some 350 kilowatt chargers out there as well.
So it goes on to say, it does say Honda, BMW, and Mercedes are a part of that as well. So the very, very large organized group going for a lot of chargers really quickly.
And all renewable too.
Not only, so not only all renewable, and there's a couple of car brands that you just mentioned there that have not officially signed on to the NACS standard yet. Honda and BMW.
Yet.
Yet.
Only a matter of time.
Yes, yet.
We want standardization. Don't make it difficult for us.
That's right. Randolph Schneck, another comment for us. I live in Wyoming. It says they do charge the equivalent of sales tax here when you buy a car. I own a Tesla. I had to pay a ton to get it registered. Oh, well.
I think it's Montana. Montana is the...
It might have been Montana then. They, because I know Montana doesn't charge sales tax.
Well, they've got the solid blue license plates, and there's some loophole with it where if you have a supercar, you want it registered in Montana for one reason or another. But
Yeah, Wyoming. I was mentioning for the business thing.
Okay.
Business. Okay.
Okay.
And then George comes back and he says the trick with trailer plates is to register the trailer in Maine. You don't need to live there, don't need the trailer inspected ever, and you can pay for 10-year registration for the price of 1 year.
Well, that's interesting to know.
That is.
I know in Arizona you can get a permanent registration for a pull-behind trailer, but they're not necessarily very cheap.
Yeah.
And I do think you have to get, depending on the age of the trailer and stuff, you do have to get it inspected. So, Redwood Materials, JB Strobel, we've talked about him quite a bit, and he's making some press again.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, Redwood Materials is making news because of funding. They've announced that they're going to raise another $700 million in upcoming funding. These funds are going to be used to further develop and expand their lithium-ion recycling factory that they have in Sparks, Nevada.
That's one that's really close to Tesla, correct?
That's right. The Tesla Gigafactory in Nevada is in Sparks as well.
Okay.
They're looking to build a plant outside as well of Nevada in Charleston, South Carolina, and sometime in the near future. So the notable thing, that the newsworthy thing that made this article make the press is that there are a lot of institutional investors investing in Redwood Materials right now. And with this round of investing, once it's funded, Redwood Materials is expected to be worth somewhere north of $5 billion.
$5 billion.
$5 billion with market capitalization.
And when did he start?
2017.
That's not a long time to hit a $5 billion market cap.
Yeah, that's another thing mentioned there, though, in this article is that eventually Redwood Materials forecasts that they're going to be able to produce enough raw material from recycling batteries to be able to make new batteries for over 1 million electric vehicles a year.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of cars.
That's an insane amount. That's Tesla's goal is 1 million a year, right?
Tesla's goal by 2030 is to have 20 million a year.
20 million a year. Okay, well, Redwood can support half of or 5% of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
by all means. Yeah. And, and JB Strobel's, he's one of the board of directors of Tesla. So Redwood Materials and Tesla still partner pretty closely together on stuff. And the logistics being literally in the same town also favor Redwood Materials in that particular manner.
Quick question for you, Mark. So you said that institutional investors are purchasing Redwood. And for the audience, an institutional investor is a company that you would find on the 500 index. Those are institutional. In the world of investments and finance, there are different levels to it. What companies are investing?
I remember one of I don't remember all the companies that are investing right now. I believe one of them is like a Goldman Sachs type of investor, possibly somebody like a 401k fund, like a Fidelity fund.
Okay, yeah. So I pulled up a list. I wanted to make sure this list was accurate to what you had read more recently, but yeah, it looks like Amazon, Fidelity, Goldman Sachs, and Ford are some of the major investors.
Yes, that is correct.
Super interesting. So
that jives with some of the lists that I had.
Now, do you think that it's a conflict of interest for Tesla to invest in Redwood, given that JB is on the board of Tesla's directors?
Personally, I don't think so.
Okay.
Because while there is some corporate inbreeding that would be going on, for lack of a better way to say it, the fact is Tesla, a company investing money into one of that company's own suppliers to make sure that the supplier is healthy and able to produce products for them, that happens actually pretty frequently in in industry.
Okay. Just curious on that. Yeah, the whole conflict of interest thing when I worked at Vanguard was it was a massive emphasis on what we could and could not do. So
That totally makes sense.
Well, Tesla has their own recycling sections. Does this mean they're gonna maybe eliminate those and just go strictly with Redwood Materials then?
we didn't see any investments from Tesla on this list.
Yeah, we know that Tesla and Redwood are partnering together for a lot of this, but they did not say anything about Tesla moving their recycling efforts from their own factories over to Redwood at this point. So I can't say for sure if that's going to happen or not. That's a really good question, though.
Also, Mark, do you know the process of how Redwood Materials gets the EV battery? So if I'm a customer, my battery goes out, I need a replacement one. Can I just send that old battery directly to Redwood Materials, or does it have to come through a third party to them?
While I'm not totally familiar on the process, I think what happens is not so much that the consumers are sending their own batteries, but the consumer instead is working with a vendor to provide a replacement battery, and then that vendor is trying to dispose of the batteries in bulk, and that vendor then would send the battery over to Redwood. Not unlike, in Gruber Power Services, we do something similar to this. UPS batteries wear out after anywhere from 3 to 6 years. If there's been more power spikes and stuff like that, it could be shorter. If the batteries just sit on a float charge with no power anomalies, it could be a longer time. When we go to replace batteries in a customer's UPS, that replacement of batteries is something that we do. Usually our customers want us to take their old batteries off the site. They don't want them. They don't know what to do with them. And it's hazardous material. It's lead and sulfuric acid and plastic. So we like to get those batteries back because we do know what to do with them. We have contracts with recyclers, and we'll take, instead of one UPS's 40 batteries, we'll put a pallet of 240 batteries together, send it in bulk to a recycler who likes that they're able to get large quantities of batteries from us, and they'll give us a premium price because we are recycling so many materials with them. I think that's the kind of relationship that would probably exist between Redwood and those people who want to recycle batteries. So, speaking of recycling and Tesla and all of the production, Tesla is trying to move toward building 20 million cars a year. I mentioned that a few minutes ago. One of the ways that they're going to do that is that they want to expand Giga Berlin.
I heard that's that's the physical footprint of the factory, correct?
I do think it's both the physical footprint and obviously the number of cars that they want to produce. Giga Berlin has been advertised as being capable of producing 500,000 cars a year with their current factory footprint. In the latest investor letter, shareholder letter, Tesla said that they are producing an average of about 375,000 cars a year at Giga Berlin. That equates to about 7,500 cars a week. They want to move that up to 1 million cars a year.
That's just, again, an insurmountable number.
It's kind of massive, actually.
Yeah.
Now, if Germany approves this, it would make the Giga Berlin factory Tesla's largest production factory. Not necessarily in footprint. I don't know. I believe that the Texas Gigafactory is a larger one, and I believe that the one that they're building in Monterrey, Mexico, will be larger still as well.
Well, I mean, it makes sense that the Texas one is biggest. Everything's bigger in Texas. So.
Well, yeah, and my counterpoint to that joke is always, I lived in Alaska, and those Texas people have to be careful, because if they tick off the Alaska people, Alaska will divide itself in two, and then Texas can be the third largest state.
That's funny.
So, for the Giga Berlin factory, here's what it would be: 1 million cars. VW's famous Wolfsburg factory, that's the headquarters factory for Volkswagen, has produced some 46 to 48 million cars in its lifetime. It is a massive factory in Germany, and it can produce about 800,000 cars a year.
Okay.
So Tesla, if they are approved, would be able to produce 1 million a year.
Okay.
Now, personally, my thought is that they might run into some static with the Germans.
Based on those numbers.
Well, not only based on those numbers, if you remember, they had to kind of jump through hoops because of all the environmentalists and
Yep.
the approvals and so on and so forth. So there was that going on. And my speculation totally, the German government comes back and says, okay, you can expand your factory so that you can build 750,000 cars a year.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
Just below the 800 for Volkswagen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Just below the 800 for Volkswagen. Just a sense of national pride. And, you know.
Yeah, there's a saying, though, Mark.
What's that?
Pride will make you dumb.
Yes, it could. Yes, it could.
I've got my pun here since we're talking about Germany.
Okay.
What do the Germans call Teslas? A Volkswagen.
A Volkswagen. Yes. Okay.
The silence is very loud.
Okay.
We need that cricket sound button.
Instagram, Merrick1G. Hello, Gruber Motor Company. And hello, thank you for joining us this morning.
Welcome.
Also on Instagram, Shakes Smart World says, hi, how are you? What is the ECM or ECU in simple words? While I don't remember what the initials stand for just off the top of my head, that's kind of the central computer for the car.
Yeah,
It's
it stands for engine control unit or engine control module.
Okay, it's the brains of the car. In a Tesla Model S, the equivalent, they call it the master control unit or the MCU. So and what it does very simply is there is a CAN bus that has all kinds of signals coming through the car so that the car is talking to its components throughout. This is true in ICE vehicles that are made in modern ICE vehicles. It's true in all electric vehicles. This is why your tire pressure monitoring system is able to talk to your car and throw up tire pressures on the dash. This is potentially why you have a check engine light. You know, it can be anything simple like that. This is what your OBD2 module, onboard diagnostic modules, do in all cars. They're talking through that ECU, and so in an electric car, it's just a lot more robust than in most other cars. When you walk up to the car and your remote control is there and the car senses that remote control, it sends a signal to the MCU that says, oh, car handles present. So that's basically what it does. That's why I say it's the brains of the car.
Makes sense to me.
Cool. George has asked us another question. How does Redwood get that foamy stuff out of the newer battery packs to get to the batteries? George, I don't know an answer for that for sure.
If memory serves, and with me it's a big if, I think they heat everything up to separate the different components, like melt everything down to separate the different components and then cut them off. From there, they'll scoop.
Yeah, we'll look into that and see.
I think that's how they do it.
Pretty sure that they put everything into a bunch of different chemicals to strip out things, and it's a pool by pool chemical process as well. So we'll have to verify some of that.
Yeah, let's verify that. I think both of you might be right there that there's a heating process that's there. I'm almost positive there is a chemical process. Different chemicals cause different elements to react. And that's the main portion of how they extract the raw materials back out.
And just so we don't get too far away from your joke there, Richard, George gave you a response.
He says, "Rich, boo, yeah,
yeah." Ryan Flint has said to us as well. My battery warranty is up on August 8th. I expect my 70D battery to fail within the next year. I can't wait to upgrade to a 90D. Found EVs Republic and Sakto will do it for around 15K. 15K is not a bad price to do not only a battery replacement, but a battery upgrade.
Yeah. Absolutely. Not too bad at all.
Not at all. TikTok 3 Bunnies has joined us. Says, do you think hydrogen is in abundance?
We had some news about that not too long ago. I think you talked about deposits of white hydrogen being located in abundance, enough to fuel the planet for some odd hundreds of years, something like that.
Yeah, hundreds of years. Yes. The real question at hand is not so much is hydrogen in abundance. We talked about white hydrogen. The people, in order to make hydrogen simpler to understand for those of us that are non-techies, the source of hydrogen has been given a color. Blue hydrogen comes from methane. Green hydrogen comes through electrolysis, and the electricity source for that electrolysis is solar or wind energy typically. Pink, electrolysis, but the energy is nuclear. Brown hydrogen is hydrogen that's taken from burning coal. So white hydrogen is hydrogen that occurs naturally in the crust of the earth. And there was recently an article that said, hey, looks like white hydrogen deposits have been found that they refresh themselves, unlike hydrocarbons, oil, that they will refresh themselves, and we may have a virtually unlimited supply of hydrogen just to pump it out of the ground. So there is hydrogen out there. The belief is that it's out there in abundance. There is the article for the white hydrogen mentioned if it can be successfully extracted and stored, hydrogen can become less expensive than natural gas today. I know, having lived in Alaska, you hear chatter in the oil industry a little bit more because oil is one of Alaska's primary revenue sources from the government. And up on the North Slope of Alaska, oil companies will pump natural gas back into the ground to help it to keep their oil fields from collapsing. They get so much natural gas out of the ground, they just don't know what to do with it, and they don't want to burn it off because it's harmful to the environment. So they just turn it around, and they pump it back into the ground instead of water or water slurry like they do elsewhere in the country.
Okay.
So whether hydrogen is the future of cars is much more hotly debated. Here, I think our general consensus is that it's probably not the future, even though it might be available in abundance. There are other disadvantages to having hydrogen, even as hydrogen fuel cells, that we think will not overcome the advantages of and simplicity of electric vehicles and electric batteries.
It's always good to have options, and only time will tell. You have to explore everything that we can do thoroughly, and only once completing our tests will we know.
Niles has what, in my opinion, is one of the greatest comments I've heard in a long time. He says, I heard that BMW put up a large portrait of Elon Musk in 2 of their production halls as a gentle reminder.
That's funny.
I love that.
You know, I did my best to try to find some articles on that to see if there's any truth to this. I didn't find anything. Now, I'm not saying that's not the case, because that sounds like something that the Germans would do is, hey, just remember who we're competing with.
Yeah.
You know, and what's going on. I did find an article stating that during a presentation on EVs to BMW AG employees flown in from all over the place, they were given seems to be virtual reality goggles, and they were scared with a portrait of Elon with his face popping up on screen. And they said that, quote, BMW is falling behind in electrics, and they wanted to scare the employees. So I don't doubt that.
Wow.
That's hysterical.
I mean, Elon is not the most handsome guy in the world, so I could see if he pops up on my virtual reality, my Oculus, and he started popping up. I could be kind of frightened.
Yeah, especially if you're not expecting it.
Yeah, especially if you're not expecting it. Well, and hey, he gets stuff done.
Yeah, he does.
And that's what Tesla's entire culture is, and what they're known for worldwide. They get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
So if the management at BMW took that approach, I can't say that I disagree.
Mm-hmm.
He is a good example for that.
Absolutely.
Highlander Apparel has joined us today.
Mm-hmm.
Says, awesome topic, and remember, kindness is free.
It sure is.
Yes, it is. We were talking about the Giga Berlin factory here, moving to a million cars, and how they could eclipse Volkswagen's capability in their Wolfsburg factory.
Mm-hmm.
There was something else that Jesse, if you can pull up the, I think it's the Chinese company JPG. There is a cool thing that you can do with classic VW Beetles.
Mm-hmm.
So the bugs. When the German government commissioned the VW, literally Volkswagen means people's car.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1930s, they were rewarded with the Beetle, and it was probably the longest running single body style ever in existence in a car. They made millions of VW Beetles over the years. And that classic Beetle, part of its longevity is its simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
A little 40 horsepower air-cooled motor would get that car around, and it just goes. It's easy to maintain. It's not very environmentally friendly, though.
Mm-hmm.
There are conversion kits that exist that can convert your VW Beetle into an electric vehicle.
Okay. I know that market's expanding.
Yeah, the expanding market, not just for VWs.
Yep.
And one of the more well-known kits is made by EV West, kind of the standard for the kits, and it's $20,000 to convert your VW Beetle to an EV. Kind of pricey for a lot of people. Yeah. But if you go to Alibaba, you can get this motor right here for $2,000.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. Now it will. This particular motor will. It's a 15 kilowatt, 20 horsepower motor. It connects directly to the drivetrain on your Beetle, so you don't have to change your transmission or anything. It'll connect directly to the transaxle, and it includes the kit includes the motor. It includes a charger. It includes an accelerator pedal. It includes an add-on instrument cluster, so you can see your state of charge and you can see your speed. Unfortunately, it does not include a battery pack.
So the classic battery's not included.
Battery's not included, yes. Although it's only a 96 volt motor.
Okay.
So, while they're not necessarily that common, it's probably not that difficult to get a 96 volt battery pack. I know from our, from our Gruber Power Services, we put strings of batteries together to run in UPSs. Take 8 lead acid batteries, set them together in series. Boom, you got 96 volts.
Okay.
So there you go. So for a few $100s, or about another $1,200 to $1,500, you stick 8 batteries in the back of your car and wire them together, and you got power.
Wow, that's really exciting. I love this type of thing. I'm actually thinking about doing something like this.
Really?
I totally meant to send Jesse a picture of my truck. Yeah. So I have a beautiful '93 F-150. It's gorgeous. I absolutely love this truck. It's been a little, love-hate relationship. I love driving it. I don't like getting out to figure out what's wrong with it.
Sure.
But I got it up running over this past weekend, and I sat there, and I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, and the idea was just there. I need to convert this to electric. I want to really fully redo my truck and completely rip all of the ICE stuff out, throw all EV stuff in, redo the entire interior. giving it kind of like a modern look. Now, this is probably years down the road, but that kind of thing, $2,000 for that little motor. I'm hoping the rest of the industry follows that direction to get to be less expensive. Yeah, because I love that stuff. That's so cool. I want, like I said, I want to do it.
That would be incredibly cool. Although you're probably going to have a little bit more motor than that because that's only a 20 horsepower motor.
I'll have one of those on every wheel.
Okay, well, you're still only 80 horsepower.
Yeah, I know. I'll probably need double that or something.
Hey, Richard.
Yeah.
Didn't you and Pete shoot a TikTok video that had a truck similar to your style that was converted to an EV?
Yeah, the E100.
Well, do you know what was in that or the specs on it?
I don't. There is a video on YouTube. If you look up Ford, I think it's E100 electric pickup truck, it'll pop up. It's this big orange truck. I'm sure the specs are in there. And that's a good idea. I need to go there to check out and see what they did.
I was going to see, so did they have a conversion kit from Ford for that maybe you can put in yours?
No, I'm not too sure. I know that Ford is selling their Mach-E motors. They're not doing anything with batteries, though, and I don't think they have any operating systems or anything like that for the conversion. I haven't seen anything, but I'll have to do some research. All I've done so far is look at educational companies to try to figure out how I can learn to do this myself.
Sure.
But maybe...
There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, mine is so much prettier than that.
That's a classic style though. That's such a nice style.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have the lights across the top as well. And,
correct.
But that's not that far off your color though.
No, it's not. It's the one I have is the classic Ford blue with a black stripe up the on the hood, kind of scoop thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then my goodness, I think it's a silver line along the side. Yeah, a little silver line along the side, and then paint speckle in the black.
There you go.
It's gorgeous.
Ryan Flint has another comment for us. He says, I can't wait for the Toyota truck EV conversion kits to roll out. It might be even cooler than my VW 1.6 TD 4Runner. That would be very cool for an EV conversion kit for a little Toyota. Think of those SR5 Toyotas from the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great trucks. Having an EV conversion kit for that, seeing one of those things fly down the road 0 to 60 in 3 seconds.
Oh, you could have so much fun. You could have so much fun.
That'd be
these
so
things.
fun. That'd be so great.
I mean, I'm honestly, I'm most excited about being able to redo the interior.
Sure.
To like, as much as people say, keep it original, keep it classic, I'm not. There's so many of those trucks out there where I have free reign to do pretty much whatever I want within reason. Can't have a floating seat or anything like that. But can completely do a modern take on an old truck. On the outside, it looks old. Under the hood, it's brand new, and on the inside, it's brand new.
Yeah, it would look so stunning.
I love it.
Speaking of stunning, I think we have a picture in the wild of a Cybertruck on a trailer.
We do.
I'd like to see that. I don't have an article for it, so you can describe a little more what's going on with this particular picture.
Sure. So we talked a little bit on Tuesday about the Cybertruck that was wrapped like a Ford F-150.
Yes.
We see it in the light, in the public, in a new picture. It's a really good job.
Yeah, this picture wasn't converted. I got to find it. Give me a minute.
Okay. Tesla, in their usual fashion, is so here's my take on it. I can't tell if Tesla is actually throwing a jab at Ford, or if, given the recent NACS partnership and all that, if it's kind of in good spirit, in good humor, in good faith type of jab. You know what I mean?
I have to admit, seeing this particular picture, and I'm sure Jesse will be able to get it converted and up here soon. That, to me, when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, somebody reversed the joke. They took their Ford and put a line across the back to make it look like a Cybertruck.
Mm-hmm.
That's how good that wrap is.
Yeah.
I know the CEO threw some shade at the Cybertruck, saying that most Americans that work wouldn't be caught in a Cybertruck. So something like that.
Yes.
So I kind of feel like it is.
Well,
But that's most definitely that is an incredibly well done wrap. Love how they got the rear headlights to look so realistic.
yeah. You know what's hysterical about those door handles? I mean, I think it's hysterical that when they pop out, it will appear to be like it's a really good sell on that image. You know what I mean? It's a door handle. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I like it.
Yeah, that's so saw that in there and thought, wow, that is just something else.
Mm-hmm.
Just something else.
Not much you can do about the square wheel wells. You know.
No, but again, with the rounded wheel well, again, to me, I was about halfway convinced there that was a Ford that had been wrapped like a Cybertruck, not a Cybertruck that's wrapped like a Ford.
Yeah.
Should I wrap my diesel as a Cybertruck?
Yes.
Absolutely. Now you're going to have to make the modification to it so you can coal roll somebody as well, right?
Actually, I can't do that because I wasn't able to register my truck in Montana, so I can't delete it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
We have a comment from George. He says, I also wished those back side doors could open on those year Fords. Oh, yeah. Yep. I wish too,
Yeah.
but you gotta do the whole put the seat up forward, hop in the back.
Yeah, that was Chevrolet was that way too. The 96 Chevy that I have, they didn't have the option for the rear opening doors.
Really?
It wasn't until 1999 that Chevrolet General Motors put the option out so you could have the possibility of a rear door that opened.
Chris Wood on TikTok says there's no door handle though. On the Cybertruck there is. It presents itself. When we were at the Peterson Auto Museum, we got to see them. On one side they were extended, and on the other side they were closed. So we got to see what they looked like.
Yeah.
Don't know if that was intentional.
Now, Lionheart 8894 on TikTok, good comment for us. He says that's not how it works on the 96 volt. He said, but how about the current? That would be sufficient to generate power. Now, Lionheart, you're right about one thing. Putting the batteries in series could make it so you get 96 volts out of 8 12-volt batteries. If you put them in parallel, you increase the amp hours of the battery, but not the voltage. The question that he's asking, though, when it comes to the overall current that could be drawn out of those batteries, that's true. You might not get enough current. It is only a 15 kilowatt battery, 15 kilowatt motor, so you may not need to have a whole lot of amperage being drawn from those batteries. The biggest issue is how are you going to cool off a battery if it's just sitting in the back seat and there's nothing else there to cool it. Yeah, you gotta think that one through.
Yep, 100%.
Some sort of battery pack with cooling capabilities is really what you'd need instead of just stringing together a bunch of batteries.
Yeah, you don't want to. That doesn't sound safe.
No, that doesn't sound safe at all. And it's not impossible to find 96 volt battery packs that include integrated cooling that would be lithium ion, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So Ryan Flint also has said Tesla tries to troll Ford with a lightning wrap, but look who's on the tow truck now.
Ooh, that's a fair
awesome.
point.
Great.
Yeah.
So Crunch is on today. Welcome, Crunch. Glad to have you here. Thumbs up, number 12. He says, catching up from way back. It's never too late to replay, but soon it's too late. Smash that thumb.
Mm-hmm.
Hit likes, everybody. We do like the likes.
That's right. And taking leadership from Victor, following his lead. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe, guys. We host these podcasts Tuesdays and Thursdays for this EV podcast, and then on Wednesdays we have a roadster specific podcast. But those likes, comments, shares, and subscriptions, they help us out. They help us continue to do things like this. So if you're not subscribed, go ahead and smash that button.
Please do. And I know that we are on several different platforms.
Yep.
They include and may not be limited to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, Facebook, LinkedIn. And we also go on to Spotify. Although not live on Spotify, we come on to Spotify afterwards within an hour or two. And that way you can even listen to us on your Spotify.
And Twitter.
That's right. Twitter.
X.
Sorry.
Is that Twitter being canceled, by the way?
Is the Twitter being canceled?
Well, yeah, it's X.
Oh. Boo.
You guys have hit your limit on these jokes.
Yeah, so if y'all are on any of those other platforms, subscribe, like, and all that, YouTube is where it helps us out the most, though. YouTube is where we're able to really put our presence out there and in a larger way. All the other platforms are great. We love them. But YouTube is the gold standard. So
yeah.
If you could journey on over there, give us a like and subscribe, and you won't be disappointed with the content.
Well, let's get through a few more questions and then see whether or not we have time for one more article. Sure. Chris Wood on TikTok says, pretty sure they had the buttons on the B pillar. And this is talking about opening the doors on the Cybertruck.
Okay.
They had videos of them opening them. The door handles were on the original, but they did not see them on the latest review.
Okay.
And that's the release candidate one. Well, at Peterson Auto Museum, Franz von Holzhausen, a few weeks ago, he was showing off a Cybertruck.
Yeah, and I think he pushed something by what he was talking about. I think there's like a little lever, or not a lever. Shoot, I wish I could find that video. It was on Twitter or X now, a while back. But I think that's where a lot of people were speculating where they were going to have the door handle, if it was going to present, or if it was going to be completely one sheet on that side panel.
That's funny. Well, if in either case, that's good. That's good information, Chris. I appreciate that. What do you think they're going to do? Because the Mach-E has that button where you press it on like the side pillar and it pops open the door.
Right.
You think they're going to go for that?
I don't know. I haven't seen any handles on any of the Cybertruck doors.
They were
pretty
flush at the museum. You could see the lines, the outline of it, but it wasn't like the Ford F-150.
I'll be interested to see how it comes out. I really don't know and wouldn't want to speculate at this point. There are some cars that you only open it with the remote control, and if you lose your remote control, you don't open your car.
Yep.
So I wouldn't even put that past them. Highlander Apparel has another comment for us.
Yeah.
People here in Toledo should just start wrapping their Jeeps as Teslas. Yes.
That'd be hysterical. I'd love to see that.
Yes. And then George tells us fun show. Thank you guys. And thank you, George, as well. We've got just a few more minutes here. So there's one more thing I wanted to get to. Volvo, which I will admit, I'm a Volvo XC40 owner.
Mm-hmm.
It's their small crossover SUV style electric vehicle, just like the XC40 that is gasoline based, their ICE vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
We love it. It's a great vehicle. Volvo has announced a high-end and a low-end electric vehicle line that is specifically EV.
Mm-hmm.
The high-end is the EX90 that was announced, and unfortunately was recently announced that they're delaying the delivery by 6 months into 2025.
Welcome to the EV program.
Yeah, absolutely. Volvo has also announced an EX30 that's creating a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the EX30 is creating this excitement because of its cost as much as anything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you wanted to pull up, Jesse, the Volvo One JPEG, that's a picture of the front of an EX30. This particular EX30 looks very similar to a Model Y in the SUV style, but its price is similar to a Model 3. This particular car, I think, has one of the best chances of any EV to come out yet to bridge that gap between early adopter and general car owner. There's definitely a gap there between the two. And the reason is that this crossover SUV is coming in at a MSRP under $35,000. That rivals the least expensive Model 3 after the federal tax credit is taken into account. Now, Volvo is not made in the U.S., so they're not eligible for the tax credit.
Mm-hmm.
But they're coming in at a price point that, for the type of reputation that Volvo has for being a luxury vehicle, the type of build quality that they put into their cars, and the type of features that this particular car has, I think is a real winner for a car.
I think so too. And I mean, and looking at this vehicle, I mean, it's gorgeous. It reminds you of a Polestar, which we shouldn't surprise us too much because they're sister companies.
Yes.
But this thing is absolutely gorgeous, and the interior as well. Now, I've noticed it's a little different than traditional Volvo cars. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
It is a little bit different than traditional Volvo cars. The traditional Volvo car will have some sort of a grille up front. This one doesn't. It's just a flat front. The frunk on the Volvo is infamously small. It's a small enough frunk that basically all it does is hold a charging cable. But the most innovations, or the biggest innovations that I saw in this particular car are inside the car as opposed to outside. If Jesse can pull up the Volvo S screen JPEG, that is to me the most revolutionary feature of the car.
Okay.
This particular car doesn't have an instrument panel.
Like in front?
Yeah, in front of the driver, there is no instrument panel. That center screen is your instrument panel. Across the top, you see that P and the picture of the car. That's park. Your speed, your lights, everything are reported right there on the top, near eye level, closer to eye level, so it's very easy for a driver to see. But it completely replaces and simplifies the instrument cluster, thereby lowering the overall manufacturing cost of the car. Instead of 2 or 3 parts, you just have one large screen. Other reimagined features on this car include a center cubby to hold stuff. You don't have a glove compartment in the front. A very minimalist style, which is actually kind of a Volvo style anyway, for the inside of the car. Even the window switches and door locks are in the center console, so you don't have the extra wiring that goes into your doors.
Huh. That's actually extremely smart.
And these steps like this and other steps that have been taken to keep the number of parts down and the manufacturing process simple have led Volvo to be able to have this $35,000 price. It also means that the car is likely going to be a little more simple to maintain than most EVs.
And they're already extremely simple to maintain to begin with.
Yes.
So that's
So I'm personally extremely excited to see how this car goes. I think it's going to be a hit, not only within the Volvo fan base. I think this is one of the first cars that's going to have the ability to expand outside of their own dedicated fan base and to car lovers overall, because it's going to appeal not just to a person who is looking at an electric vehicle. It's going to be appealing to a person who just wants to buy a car. It has 275 miles of range, so that's similar to range to what you get in a gasoline engine. For a small vehicle, it's got room for 5, although your 3 in the back have to be pretty small because it's a pretty small car.
Yeah.
But it's similar to other small crossover SUVs that are out there in the marketplace.
Yeah. No, this thing is I'm looking at the website right now. It looks absolutely amazing. I really like the interior, the simplicity of it, and there's elegance to it for sure. You can reserve one for $500 today.
Yes, they're not available for sale yet, due to be out. Time frame is saying end of 2024 / early 2025, and you can put in a reservation for one. I think it's going to be a huge hit in the car market overall, and especially with people who like the concept of EVs but have said they're just too expensive.
Yeah.
So we have one more comment from Highlander Apparel. Says Sandy M would love it. I think there's a great chance that Sandy Munro would love it. By the way, speaking of Sandy Munro, we'll close with this little tidbit. Pete is going to be a guest on their show coming up. I believe it's going to be August 14th. Pete has been invited, is accepted, and will be a guest on the Sandy Munro podcast.
All right, so we want to clear that up. That is the tentative date they'll record. We don't know Sandy's schedule or the release or any of that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
But it's we're excited about it. Excited to see that we were able to collaborate with somebody such as that.
Always exciting to work with them.
So, with that, anything else for you?
I hope you all have a great day.
Likewise, take care. Come see us. We'll be back next Tuesday, 10 o'clock Pacific Daylight Mountain Standard Time. We do always say that because Arizona is one of those weird states. We don't switch daylight time. And we look forward to seeing you then.
Take care.